This is Jean-Paul Holcomb. I am Royce Cousins, and I am excited because we get to start a whole new series for the men's group.
Yeah.
So normally I don't get very excited about Christian books, especially most all of them are the self-help, kind of thing. There are a few good Christian novels out there, but I got to say, when Jean-Paul brought this to me and told me about it, like something inside me just got excited. I mean, I don't want to get all weird about it, but I'm really excited about this book. You want to talk about it?
So the book's called The Man in the Mirror by Patrick Morley, and I'm right there with you. Like, I was given this book by a guy who's a part of this organization. I've heard about the book for years, and it was just like you said, oh great, another Christian self-help book, especially man book. I don't know if anybody remembers, well, I won't throw other names out there. There were some that I just did not enjoy. But I really connected with the guy that handed it to me. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of in honor of him, I opened it up. Some of the titles of the chapters really kind of caught my attention. It's like, all right, let's see what there is to be said here. Yeah. And I picked a title that had to do with something going on in my life. And I dove in there and was shocked with how practical, how succinct, not long drawn out, not flowery and poetic, just literally, here's the deal, it's scripturally based, here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Genuinely useful.
So really quick, I know this is probably jumping way too far ahead, but I mean, just in general, some of the stuff that's gotten me really excited is the whole concept of purpose. Just every man especially just needs a purpose for why they're even here. And, a lot of these other, big, huge topics that are really powerful, really actually speaking to me. So I'm pretty excited about this book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the book starts right off with a chapter called The Rat Race. Okay. And so the rat race, as this chapter defines it, it's the conflict between who I'm created to be and who I'm tempted to be. And in here, he lays out sort of 5 rat traps that we can get caught in. One of them he calls the standard of living fallacy. Okay, and just this idea that, hey, we all want a higher standard of living, but oftentimes that sucks us into a lifestyle of creating an image, based on material things that takes us in the opposite direction of what we're actually purposed by God to do. Another one is what he calls consumerism, economic theory. So it's this idea that a greater consumption of goods over time is better, right? Mm-hmm. A constantly increasing consumption. And this speaks a lot about what our economy is based on, the throwaway elements we've found in production, the fact that we always need to have the newest, better, always increasing, which is, again, a big distraction. He also talks about media influence. And boy, especially after the couple of years that we've just come through, you can go any number of directions, whether it's just straight up watching TV, looking at social media, reading blogs. It's all about this idea of somebody else is feeding you the idea of what you should look like, what your image should be. And if that doesn't line up with what God's got for us, boy, we can be going off into some crazy directions. He asks this question in that, he says, if your life doesn't match up to the commercials that you're seeing on TV or the internet, then what is your life? What does that say about you? And then there's also a couple more things. He talks about the beautiful wrinkle-free life, this sort of Madison Avenue idea of, hey, this is what you should look like. If your life isn't perfect and wrinkle-free, then it's not worth much. And this is where we get things like the whole Victoria's Secret models giving this immensely unrealistic image to women of what they should be, or conversely to guys what they should look for in women. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of horrible stuff, and that goes a lot of different directions. And the last is debt pressure. And he just talks about this pressure to borrow money so that we can continue increasing our standard of living, even though we aren't earning that much. And there's just all sorts of pressure created not only to get into debt, but then you're getting onto this rat race of paying it off.
It's keeping you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really woven together really well, how those different things interact and how they all are. I mean, it's almost like laying out the devil's strategy for getting us off track.
Yeah. Some of the ones that really spoke to me was this, about this rat race, was about the standard of living. And so even just today, I was talking with one of my friends, and he made this comment, and it's so beautiful. He said, I just have this habit, and he's a younger guy. I think he just turned 31, and he said, I have this habit. I walk up to all the older people that I know, and he goes, it goes like this. Hey, old man, I know you've been around. Tell me, if you had to do it from right now, you're me right now, you're 31 years old, what would you do differently? And he goes, invariably, Christian, non-Christian, polished person, calloused person, doesn't matter. Everybody except one who is making a lot of jokes, but everybody says one thing consistently. They say, I'd work less and spend more time with my family. Everybody said that. And it's super impactful for me because a few years ago, when my grandparents passed, I took care of a lot of this stuff. So my wife and I remember them. They had all the stuff. They had the classic cars, and they had the nice property and all the stuff, and they always had parties at their house. And you think of them in a certain way, and they had collected so much stuff. And then when they passed away, you think there must be all this value there. And I'd say probably 90% of it was garbage. Literally went in the dumpster.
Wow.
Or was very worthless in other ways. Like all these collections, you spend all this money, you do all this stuff, and you've got this whole consumer mindset, and you think it's making you happy, but the reality is it's actually not.
Yeah.
And at the end of your life, what are you going to wish for? More stuff?
No. It's every balance sheet has two sides, right? And that's one of the things he's highlighting in this chapter is that there's the material side and there's the relationship side. Mm-hmm. And invariably, when one goes up, the other goes down. Mm-hmm. Because we only have so much time. We have only so much focus.
Yeah.
And no matter how much we drink those energy drinks or have that second cup of coffee or fifth or sixth cup of coffee, we don't manufacture more time.
Right.
And we may think that we're creating more energy, or I don't know. We may think we're trying to trick ourselves into thinking we're getting ahead, but we're limited. It's a set amount of time. I had an interesting experience just recently. I was driving around childhood neighborhoods, and I found a sadness, at some of the memories. And Spirit just started talking to me about, hey, you don't get to hold on to those things, and just kind of led me down this trail of it, not just like memories, but essentially opened my mind to this idea that you can only really be sad about those kinds of things if you think that somehow you could possibly hold on to it all, right? And he led me into this thinking that, you got to be where you are right now, and if you are so busy holding on to things that from the past, things that you feel you're owed, hurts that you had, then your hands are not open to receive what's going on right now. And it was a major mental shift for me. But as I'm looking at the overarching purpose of this chapter, talking about are you running the rat race or the right race, it's very clear. It's like, wow, in order to shift my priorities, in order to acquire or achieve or enjoy the things that are important, I will have to literally open my hands and let go of any offenses that people have had against me, against goals that I have to attain certain levels of success in other areas of life. It's like, you don't get to run both races because you lose both if you try to run them both at the same time.
So ultimately, what matters, and is what I'm doing driving me toward that goal or not?
Exactly. And I found reading it, that was one of the first things that I noticed. I was like, oh man, there's so many areas in my life, like I can look and go, I'm running toward God and what he created me for in that area.
Yeah, in general.
Right.
But there's still all these things over here.
Oh, sure. I was just looking at buying a new truck recently, and it's not that I couldn't afford it or anything, but it's like, boy, I'm pretty good set up the way I am now, and those resources could go to something else. What's my priority?
Yeah.
And lost my train of thought on that one. I was going to, the questions at the end of the book.
Exactly where I was going to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to check these out. These questions are powerful. And I think that's a big part of what's impacting both of us about this book is that it makes you think. And it doesn't just make you think and then leave you hanging. It's giving you practical, hard-hitting, getting to the heart of the issue, help, tools, not just feeding you the answers.
And these are the questions that we're going to be asking in the men's group that we're doing.
Yeah, so check this out. Most men are caught up in the rat race. Do you agree or disagree, and why? Okay. Number 2, if the rat race is an unwinnable race, why do you think so many men run it? What are they trying to accomplish?
Interesting. Key in on that unwinnable race.
Right?
Reading the book.
Yeah. Who wants to run an unwinnable race? Number 3, in what ways has your material standard of living gone up since you were a child? And in what ways do you think your moral, spiritual, and relational standard of living has been affected? Yeah, kind of that balance sheet thing. Number 4, it appears that many men have been lulled into mental and spiritual complacency. How have consumerism and the media impacted your own values and the way you spend your time and money? And number 5, Madison Avenue works hard to define for us who and what we are, usually in terms of the beautiful, wrinkle-free life, which he dives into more detail in the book. What practical steps can you take to free yourself from its influence? And just to throw out there, just when you realize that something's a trap, when you see a trap, it's a little bit easier to say no to the bait in that trap, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't jump into it if you know it's a trap.
Yeah.
So, obviously the book's called The Man in the Mirror. It's written for men, but these concepts are things that we're sharing with our daughters, with our wives, with men and women, no matter who it is. It's applicable stuff. I'm excited to dive deeper into this book.
These chapters aren't very long either, so just dive in, go for it. If you're not much of a reader, for me, I got it on audio because I read most of my books listening in the truck on the way to work. So
got the time, right? Makes it a lot easier.
Yep.
Plus, we're going to put a link in below the video. There's videos on YouTube, people talking about the book, and I'm sure you could probably even find, like you said, the audiobook where they're actually reading the book itself.
Yep.
All right, that's all.